Hey, I'm Mark. I'm a history teacher, and I'm going rogue. Something strange happened. Life went sideways, and I stopped producing videos for a few months. Then, more people started subscribing to my channel. Now I'm sitting around 950 subscribers. That's crazy. 950 people care about my opinion on sports and popular culture and history. Maybe I can get to 1,000. That would be awesome. 950 subs. That makes me like one of those teams left in the Big 12. Hey, paint me red and gold and call me Iowa State. I can't compete with Clay Travis, but I'm on the same platform. I might even beat him once in the bluest of blue moons. So, ESPN got its wish and induced Texas and Oklahoma into its most favored nation, the SEC. Let the early 14-week SEC gasms continue in Bristol. I don't think you can blame Texas and Oklahoma. The level of competition in the Big XII was good, depending on the week and the year. Oklahoma has won the conference the last 6 years. Texas brings more of a name and a reputation, last winning the conference in 2009, along with the national championship. But in the last 6 years, Texas has been a very mediocre 35-28. Nevertheless, this is where the money is. And I can't imagine the pain when the power brokers in Austin and Norman send those checks off to Ames and Waco. So, schools that are left in the Big 12 now, located in Morgantown and Lawrence and Stillwater. See the trend? Small markets, very small national footprint. And if the teams historically, year to year, were not competitive in the Big 12. Since the conference was created in 1996, Kansas State won in 2003, Oklahoma State won in 2011, Kansas State shared the conference title in 2012, Baylor won the conference in 2013, shared the title with TCU in 2014. Outside of that, Oklahoma, and a couple of times Texas. Now these schools are going hand in hand to more powerful conferences. So let's take a look at the remaining 8 schools in what was once appropriately dubbed the Big 12. Let's consider their options. Let's go rogue. Let's start with West Virginia. Oddly enough, WVU is going through this a second time. 10 years ago, the Mountaineers watched helplessly as their conference, the Big East, crumbled into a dumpster fire. Its closest rivals bailed and were accepted into the ACC. The remaining schools in the conference grabbed some upper-level mid-majors and created the American Athletic Conference. The next year, WVU left to become the 10th member of the Big 12. So to quote David Coverdale of Whitesnake, "Here I go again, on my own." The Mountaineers were obviously the outlier of the Big 12 for the previous 10 years. There was a marriage of convenience between the school and the conference. With the dissolution of the Big XII, many are saying that WVU needs to move into a rightful place in the ACC. Yeah? And? Problem for the Mountaineers is that schools don't decide their conference affiliation. The conferences extend invitations to the schools. During the last round of realignment, West Virginia landed in the Big 12 because the ACC didn't want them. Has that opinion among the ACC changed in the last 10 years? Currently, all member schools of the ACC are in the top 100 academically. West Virginia is number 168 academically. Oh, except for Louisville. Perhaps the pass given to the Ville leaves the door open for WVU in 2022. Now, what West Virginia has in its favor, though, is Cincinnati. Cincinnati and West Virginia are old mates in the old Big East before its implosion. A resurgent Cincinnati, now a member of the American Conference, may be a target for the ACC. West Virginia is the most logical team to come in with the Bearcats and create a 16-team conference, plus Notre Dame. The addition of West Virginia and Cincinnati to the ACC restores two of the best college football rivalries. The backyard brawl between West Virginia and Pittsburgh, and the keg of nails game between Cincinnati and Louisville. And look at that ACC North. Isn't that the old Big East? But does the ACC even want West Virginia? They didn't 10 years ago. Chances of being invited to the ACC for West Virginia? 70%. Well, Kansas. The Jayhawks have been hobnobbing around B1G country. Kansas fits in the B1G footprint, bordering Nebraska and pert near to Iowa. Do things not working in the Jayhawks' favor, though. Kansas hasn't had a winning football season since 2008 and has had only 3 winning seasons since the creation of the Big XII in 1996. But in the same time frame, the Jayhawks have won the Big XII basketball championship 20 times. Kansas could be a great get for basketball, much like Maryland was in the last go-around. Difference is, Maryland brought a huge TV market in Washington, D.C. Kansas brings, Kansas City, a much smaller market that brings fewer eyeballs, and it has to share with Kansas State and Missouri. And KU basketball is still suffering from an investigation by the NCAA and the FBI concerning corruption in recruiting. That doesn't help the Jayhawks' cause. Not that no other B1G school has ever been sanctioned by the NCAA. So what are the chances of Kansas being invited to the B1G? I give it 40%. The potential inclusion of Kansas into the B1G, if it happens, doesn't mean Kansas State gets a free ride along with. For what few eyeballs the Jayhawks bring with them, K-State brings even fewer. In spite of their proximity to the conference, Kansas State, Iowa State, and even Oklahoma State don't bring much to the B1G. They are the little brother schools in states with 6, 6, and 7 electoral votes. The University of Iowa does not want Iowa State in the same conference. They like their in-state recruiting advantage. Oklahoma State would likely finish in the top half of their division year after year, but Stillwater. Chances of any of these schools being invited to the B1G? I say 4.5%. Never say never. Well, let's look the other direction. What about the Pac-12? The recent struggles of the Pac-12 may leave room for the remainders of the Big 12. Some have gone as far as suggesting a merger between the Pac and the Big XII. Holdovers and creating a 20-team super conference. Okay, cut West Virginia loose and bring Houston along. This arrangement is not likely in toto. That's Latin. Those other sports guys don't talk Latin. The Pac-12 is composed of high-powered elitist research institutions. They aren't taking schools with state in their name. Not Kansas State, not Iowa State, not Oklahoma State, not Boise State, not Fresno State, not San Diego State. USC and Oregon aren't real happy having to share revenue with Washington State and Oregon State as it is now. Chances of Kansas State or Iowa State joining the Pac-12? I give it 3.5%. Never say never. How about TCU and Baylor? TCU and Baylor are essentially the same situation, both being religious institutions. The Pac-12 has an aversion to religious institutions. See BYU. So they don't want TCU or Baylor, even if they do schedule games on Sunday. They are a dozen of the wokest institutions of the United States. They hate Donald Trump, Fox News, and Christians, in that order. We got some proletariat to stir up, and religion is the opiate of the masses. The California state government has banned state-sponsored travel to states that have passed laws prohibiting trans boys from competing against girls in high school athletics. The University of Antifa and the University of Chaz are not going to be sharing money with institutions whose goal is to go make disciples of all men and baptizing them in the name of Jesus Christ. And what Pac-12 school wants to watch the Baylor basketball team praying in the middle of their floor after just handing you your ass? No, chances of Baylor and or TCU making the Pac-12? 0%. What about Texas Tech? Well, 2 words. Lubbock. I hear some people say the Pac-12 can get the Texas Institute of Technology and gain a foothold in the state. That's like saying you're going to gain access to the Florida market by going to Pensacola. Athletically, the Texas Institute of Technology is on par with the Pac-12. They would consistently finish in the top half of one division or the other. Problem lies in the fact that the Pac-12 doesn't want singletons. It wants pairs. USC, UCLA, Stanford, Cal, Washington State. It took Arizona and Arizona State as a pair. They took Colorado along with Utah. The TIT could pair up with UTEP, New Mexico, Oklahoma State, I guess, but is that really a pair? And it's Oklahoma State. I suppose a pairing of Texas Tech and the University of Houston would be more attractive. Chances of the Texas Institute of Technology moving to the Pac-14? I give you 35%. Chances of Oklahoma State moving to the Pac-14 with the TIT? About 10%. Chances of Houston moving to the Pac-14? A little better. 18%. So what do you think? Do I speak truth, or am I missing some important piece of information that makes your school worthy of consideration in a now Power 4 conference? Are my percentages right? Should the remaining Big XII schools just bite the bullet and accept their relegation to Group of 6 status? Add BYU, Boise State, Houston, and Memphis to the club? You tell me. What is the future of your favorite Big XII school? Let me know in the comments below. Hey, thanks for coming by. I hope you had fun. I hope you learned something. If I did it right, you did both. I had fun, but I don't quit my day job. And next time we're watching college football, remember me. I'm Mark Haggard. I'm a history teacher, and I'm going rogue.